We're live. So today we have Mike Arnold on this live stream. And the topic today centers around unpacking Christian genocide, Reno Omokri's debacle, and the USA interest in Nigeria. And we'll be interacting with Mike Arnold. From him, we'll get to know who he is and his role in Nigeria's affairs for a while. And we're going to ask him a couple of questions, and at some point, we will let you guys come on stage and ask questions. If you want to come in, I'm going to definitely provide a room. And those who are just joining this live stream, I encourage you to also share so that others can watch us and interact when necessary. Good to have you here today, Mike Arnold. And for my audience who don't know you, will you avail us the pleasure of getting to know who you are and what your role has been in Nigeria over the years?
Absolutely. I have now been to Nigeria 16 times since 2010. As a missionary, I've never brought anything home of value on this earth, just treasures in heaven. Then presently, our work there since 2020 has centered on building schools in IDP, displaced persons camps. We presently provide a free, high-quality education to about 600 displaced youth. And we have another campus under construction as we speak that'll hold another about 500 students. And so we're working to rescue children from the cycle of death. The last 6 years, my trips have been focused on investigating the genocide. I've been all over, not just the camps with the displaced people, and become friends with them and gotten to know them and heard their stories and their eyewitness accounts and the situations that they unfortunately find themselves in. But I was in Bokos not long after the Christmas massacre, stood on the ground at Plateau State University where 2 students were gunned down just 1 week prior. I've been all through there from Jos and Bokos to Makoko and Bukuma and lots of points in between. Also sent our team late last year up to Gwoza to put boots on the ground there and see the horrible reality of the situation there. I've also, God has seen fit to introduce me to some extremely notable people, 2 very respected former presidents and current cabinet ministers and elected officials at the highest level, governors, senators, kings, you name it. God has opened doors for me there. So I think I have a pretty good handle on the situation there.
That's interesting. And thank you for your contributions to the Nigerian society. Looking at what is currently what we see to be in the front burner at the moment, Christian genocide. Do you think there's anything as such called Christian genocide in Nigeria? Do you think it exists?
Yeah, absolutely. Genocide is an intentional effort to wipe out a people group. And there is no doubt that, especially in the North, there's an intentional effort to wipe out Christians. That's how the North was built. That's how the Sokoto Caliphate was established. And it's never changed. There have been times when it has subsided, when it has become dormant, mostly, but there's other times when it has flared up. And for the last decade, it's been ongoing and in many ways only getting worse. There's absolutely a genocide taking place there.
As one who has been in Nigeria, walked around the Middle Belt and working in the Northeast, you must have interacted with the locals. What do you hear from them? What experience? What do they go through? Do they really suffer persecution? Are they real issues that you think the government of Nigeria hasn't really taken note of?
Well, I think that the government of Nigeria knows exactly what's going on, but they're spending more effort and money trying to change the story than trying to change the reality. There are today, and there is no accurate count because the government denies it. The United Nations denies it, but there are anywhere from 10 to 12 million internally displaced Nigerians, people who were living productive, peaceful lives, who have been forcibly removed from their ancestral lands and forced to live in the most horrific conditions imaginable. And every single one of them is eyewitness to genocide. their stories, and I could tell you story after story, are horrific. Men, women, and mostly women and children who are survivors, who've seen and lived through unspeakable horrors. I know a grandmother in an IDP camp who has a scar on her arm from a bullet wound and scars on her legs. She was in Gwoza, in the village of Ngoshe in Gwoza, the community there, when Boko Haram came through. Her son was a Bible translator working for a mission organization. They killed him. She went out to look for his head and was captured, put on the back of a motorcycle. I've heard this story last year, 10 years after the fact. She still has scars on the inside of her legs from the exhaust of the motorcycle going to the Boko Haram camp. Got there, and they were going to kill her, and the leader said, "Oh, don't kill her here. The bodies stink too much. Take her back home." And they told her to get back on the motorcycle, and she ran off instead. And they shot her. She has a scar went through her arm. She made it up to the mountains and collapsed. She was found a couple days later by other survivors, and now lives with everything taken away, lives with nothing, in the middle of Abuja, in the middle of the capital city. She lives in a horrific camp that the government says they're just criminals and vagrants and bums, but they're displaced people, displaced Christians who were forced from their homes. I could tell you story after story after story, just like that.
These are horrible tales, I must confess. Do you think, with the wave of attention this is getting from the US, Donald Trump's call for the government of Nigeria to actually take decisive steps, or else he steps in, do you think anything has changed? Have you observed that if anything has changed? Is Nigerian government taking any decisive steps to address the concerns of the US? What's your thought on that?
What I've seen them take steps to do is simply to tell lies and try to cover it up. That's what I've mainly seen. There, perhaps some symbolic moves here and there, but there are still, in fact, if anything, it's gotten worse in a lot of ways. I believe that the jihadis want to draw the United States into a war. I believe that. I think they have the gall to think that it's good for them and they can prevail. But you're seeing abductions, you're seeing killings. You just not long ago, the one of the state chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria was beheaded on camera.
Yes.
And where's the government there? I mean, no, I don't believe the government has any intention. How can they fight it if they deny it exists? I mean, you saw the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuggar. I know the guy. I could WhatsApp him right now. I gave him a Texas Cowboy hat last time I met him. And he went on international broadcast and said only 177 people.
Yeah, I watched when he was trying to struggle with data, and he probably didn't have any data to talk about.
How can they fight something? Why would they fight something if they deny it exists? They're just trying to fight the narrative.
Can we say the government is overwhelmed, or do we see complacency or corruption even within? Because you don't even know where to actually lay the blames as we speak.
Well, here's the thing. The government of Nigeria as it exists today has genocide at its very DNA. That's not rhetoric. Let me unpack that just briefly. First, radical Islam has genocide at its DNA. It is they believe it's godly to wipe out other people groups that stand in their way. That is the definition of genocide. Radical Islam is a genocidal ideology at its core. It's how the northern power base was built. If you understand the history of Nigeria, in 1804, Usman Dan Fodio established the Sokoto Caliphate, by many measures, the largest pre-colonial empire in Africa. And it was built through genocidal jihad. It was not built by, like the Romans of building better roads and establishing better systems. It was built by killing anybody that stood in their way. That's how the caliphate was built. And that's how it's been maintained. When the British came along 100 years later, they didn't undo it. They didn't try to change it. They just co-opted it. They just sat on top of it and used it for indirect rule. That was their strategy. And when the British finally set up a nation called Nigeria and put together two completely incompatible people groups, they established it so that the North would maintain control. When the South tried to split away, of course, they had another genocide. The British helped starve to death more than many numbers say up to 2 million Nigerians, mostly children, starved to death so the North could maintain control. And the Constitution as it exists is, we call it gerrymandered here, lopsided. Is the Northern control is baked in to the Constitution. Heck, the villa was built with 2 mosques and no chapel. If you look at the NNPC headquarters in Abuja, it is designed to look like a mosque. It's got the 4 towers in the corners and a arch structure. It's the pointed art structure in the middle. Yeah, and it is no secret. And the Islam is mentioned in the Constitution. Christianity's not. And every time you see that the power might start to shift is when you see genocide take place. When Jonathan was in control, it was. When I first started going to Nigeria, is the only nation on earth where radical Islam was being pushed back. And they couldn't have that. And so they unleashed a genocide that's still raging today. There is no Nigerian government without the North and Northern control. And Northern control is based on genocide. So there is no way that it's 2 heads of the same snake. There's no way that this government can fight itself. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And if this government fights against genocide, this government is cutting its own foundation out from under it. There is no Nigerian system today without genocide baked in. That's my opinion, and that's what history shows. Do you disagree?
Thank you for that. What do you think the U.S. can do in this regards? Because the attacks are not ending. Trump is doubling down. And it looks like there are some sanctions. Now, I read from Marco Rubio's page on X the other day about visa sanctions for those who may have been directly or indirectly involved in encouraging the genocide of Christians in Nigeria. Is it going to end just on sanctions alone? What do you think could happen?
I have to say, I just spent this week in Washington, D.C., just got home yesterday. And there's definitely a strong desire to do whatever it takes to end this, but there's also the career bureaucrats have no idea. They still talk about global warming, but the leaders know better. Sanctions will be a mere inconvenience for those that run Nigeria. It'll be bad for the people of Nigeria, probably more so. But the people, the leaders in Nigeria don't care about the people at all. They care about themselves and their own stomachs. We already have a situation where China is driving the looting of the government admits $9 billion a year in minerals from the North that fund all this. If the sanctions get too strict, Nigeria, and in fact, I saw a post from Sheikh Gummy that said, well, just go to China. We'll just pivot, go cut off the West. They don't care. Any bank accounts that are shut down here, China will gladly set it back up for them, so they can get control of what's really likely $1 trillion or more of mineral assets. That's what China wants, and they don't care how they get it. And the leaders in Nigeria don't care so long as they get their money. And so, no, sanctions will be a temporary inconvenience. What I propose is first a legitimate congressional delegation to the IDP camps to meet the whistleblowers, to meet the eyewitnesses, to see firsthand, take the world media there. That'll blow this wide open. Second, this administration today, the Tinubu administration, stands guilty of genocide. Not necessarily, the charges might not stick if it's just based on the violence in the North. There's the mass graves have to be exhumed. There's a lot to get from here to there before that can be prosecuted. But legally, International Criminal Court, the denial of aid, intentionally denial of aid to IDPs is genocide by definition. And this administration is guilty of that on the surface. It's easily provable. So, expose it, charge this government with genocide, pursue an investigation and likely designation of the caliphate, the Sokoto Caliphate, as an international terror organization. I believe the circumstantial evidence is glaring, and it wouldn't take much for us, a nation like the United States to get the prosecutable facts to designate the caliphate as an international terror organization. Those things right there will give the tools that the world needs to uproot this. Finally, focus on the internally displaced. These millions and millions and millions of peaceful, productive promising Nigerians that have so much potential. The fact is 50 to 60% will be radicalized by 2030 if there's not intervention. That is 5 or 6 million more just from that source alone, radicals that will then have control over the mineral resources and an intention, a strategy, desire to launch the jihad around the world. It is vital to the national interests of every nation on earth to intervene. And it doesn't take a lot to intervene with the lives of children. We're doing that with our schools. And those are what's necessary. Expose it, prosecute this government, designate the caliphate, and restore the displaced. That will solve this, and it'll put Nigeria on a path to I believe, greatness.
What do you have to say to some people who say, because you talked about China and rare earth minerals, that Trump probably could be saying this because of the rare earth minerals in Nigeria? You recall just yesterday, he had this peace deal between Rwanda and Congo. And one of the burning issues that came out of this whole thing was the rare earth minerals of the Congo. I made a video about it that I'm here to upload. And there's a fear that is circulating among certain quarters that could be a ploy, but not that Trump is really interested about what is happening in Nigeria. What's your take on that?
Okay, let's go that path. Okay, Nigeria exists today because it has minerals to sell. The way it's designed by Great Britain is that Britain set it up so they could keep getting raw materials, not finished products, right? And I strongly advocate, and I know Trump, if you look at his track record, is in favor of helping nations get the ability to industrialize. Okay? But till then, Nigeria needs to industrialize. Nigeria needs to be able to process its own minerals for its long-term success. But until then, it has to sell them. And there's only 5 or 6 nations on Earth that are in a position to buy minerals at that level, right? You see what China's doing. That's all they're doing, and they're funding genocide. Okay, who's the better customer? Okay, who has a proven track record around the world of being a benevolent force on Earth? You can't imagine the world without the United States in it. We've made many mistakes, and I'm a vocal critic of the mistakes we've made. Some of them break my heart and make me ashamed. But the fact is, on the balance, we have transparency. We have laws against corruption. We have motivation among the people and many in leadership to do the right thing by nation. Look, we're the only nation on earth that has ever defeated an opponent in war and then helped them rebuild. I mean, that's never happened before. That's our so again, worst case scenario. Say it's all about the minerals. Who would you rather sell them to? Who would you rather have as a customer? I don't believe that's the sole motivation of Trump, but of course it has to be in his head. Of course it has to be. We are our own existential situation is China is waging a war to try to corner the market on rare earth elements. And you control that, you control the future. And so, yes, minerals are a factor. Are they the only factor? Of course not. I believe Trump is motivated. And if you look, he's ended 8 wars, brought peace to the Middle East. And I believe he can end this genocide. We have to pay for it somehow. I mean, I don't see that as something to be ashamed of or something to hide. Yes, minerals are a factor. There's no doubt about it, because they're the driving factor for the Nigerian economy. You have to sell them to someone. Choose your customers wisely.
Okay. A lot of Nigerians got to know you first because of this Reno Omokri's issue. I think I made the video about it too because I tracked it. What really happened? You mind telling us what really happened? What was your mission to Nigeria? What was our finding mission about? And why was that spat between you and Reno Omokri?
Okay. First, as I said from the beginning, in 2019, I was there on a mission trip and was led by the Holy Spirit, a complete unexpected detour into an IDP camp in the middle of Abuja. I saw the horrific conditions those people live in, and I promised to tell their stories. It's an injustice that cannot stand. And that was just, the tip of the iceberg. That was just falling into the rabbit hole like Alice in Wonderland. And I've been going deeper and deeper, investigating it ever since. In 2023, in November, I was in Nigeria and realized and met with some very highly placed people that said, that told me, you're getting close, but it's bigger than you can realize. You got to dig deeper, they said. So I came home and I started circling back to many sources, including a book I had read written by some fellow I didn't know named Reno Omokri about the Jonathan administration. And I had some questions. In fact, he was talking about the Al-Majiri and about the displaced. And I had questions. I didn't know who he was other than the author of that book. I Googled, I found a website that had a contact form to contact Reno Omokri. And I filled it out and sent it to him. He messaged me within 5 minutes on WhatsApp. And he said, can we talk, so I can see your face and see that you're for real. So I had a WhatsApp conversation with him that same day and talked about 30 minutes. It was all about investigating the genocide. This was always the basis of my relationship with him, because he at the time was very outspoken about raising awareness about the Nigerian Christian genocide. That was why I contacted him. And that was always the basis of conversation up until very recently. I can show you our WhatsApps back and forth where I'm talking about the genocide. During that call, the first time I ever talked to him, he invited me to his birthday party in Kenya in January of last year. Well, I was in December, I talked to him. It was the next month. Hey, come to my birthday. I'll pay your way. That baffled me. I sought wise counsel. I didn't know if this was somebody that was setting me up to get me and kill me and feed me to the lions or what. I had no idea, but I felt God said go. And I met some of the most prominent people in Nigeria, amazing top shelf people. Ends up, all of us have been promised that Goodluck Jonathan would be there. Of course, he wasn't there. And all of them since then are, since everything blew up, they're friends with me. They're not friends with him, which is funny because he's the one that paid for it all. Well, I can't say that universally. There's one that's not, that's stuck with Reno, but the other ones are close to me and encouraging me. So anyway, while there, I asked him, because it was his birthday. I said, "What do you want?" He said, "Bring me something from Blanco. Can you bring me a key from Blanco?" So I got one. It was, I think, $20. Bought it online with a little inkjet printed, name of Blanco on it, little plastic, coated sheet metal, and I gave it to him on that trip. And all I knew about him was what I saw there. All I knew about him was that he wrote this book. All I knew about him was that he was encouraging me on this research, and he had connected me to these people. And so I invited him to my hometown, and he came a couple months later. He came to Blanco, and I showed him around. I got the impression, and people, my friends in Nigeria over time started saying, he's using you. He's not an honest person. He never, and I felt God say, keep on the path. Of course, I would never violate my principles. I would never do anything. But as long as and he opened a lot of doors for me. I got to admit, my next trip to Nigeria, I got to know Goodluck Jonathan personally in his living room, and he's the one that pointed me to the blood minerals. I met Yusuf Tugger. I met Muhammad Idris Malagi, the Minister of Communication. I met many people that he opened doors for. But I noticed that he was puffing me up. He would, I'm this great influential Texas mayor, small town mayor. Come on, and that doesn't really mean a lot around here. It's a volunteer job. But he puffed me up, and then he would ask me, "What do you think of this policy? For example, floating the naira." And from an economic perspective, I think that's a good policy. I don't think it's good that the nation subsidizes it. In the big picture, that's how government. So I would say, yeah. He said, "Would you say this?" I'd say, "No, I would word it this way." And then the next day, it would be in the newspapers. So he was using me, but again, I would never violate my principles. And it sort of stayed that way. He made lots of promises that he would always make excuses why it couldn't happen, but and it sort of that's where it stayed until end of September, just 8 weeks ago, when the genocide became an issue. Bill Maher started talking about it. Ted Cruz filed a bill. It started to get attention. And all of a sudden, I see Reno go online and call it a hoax. Now, this was the basis of our relationship. And it wasn't that long before we were exchanging messages about it. And now he's calling. I mean, this blew my mind.
Yeah.
And so it was October 3rd, I believe, that I felt called to rebuke him. And I messaged him a rebuke. But he called me immediately back and said, "Oh, can you help me, my friend? Can you help?" And I said, "What do you need?" And he said, "Well, can you come and meet with the president? And can you come and meet with the Sultan? And come and learn, what's going on?" Like, okay. And 2 days later, it was the 5th of October. It was a Sunday morning. I got a call in the middle of Bible study from Reno Omokri and Nuhu Rabadu, the national security advisor. We're on the phone. Promised me to meet with all these prominent people. Can you please come? I started to realize something was weird about this. The next day, he bought me a plane ticket, and I left 1 week later on the 12th, the next Sunday. In the meantime, I got a lot of insight from God led some very prominent, very deeply rooted people in the Nigerian system as advisors, and said, this is what you're stepping into. This is going to be a stooge tour. This is going to be the North Korea style, the Soviet Union style, phony PR event, and they want you to stand up and parrot their talking points. And they said, if you try to do something different, you're at grave risk. And in fact, it was it wasn't out of the question that I'd be killed. Seriously, that's not out of character.
So you were actually brought in unknowingly to prop up their lies, to just give credence to their position on the genocide.
Yeah, and so it's funny.
Your value and your belief, right?
That's right. So what's funny is because I sensed that, and that's how I advised, but I sent a message to Reno, and I could copy and paste it for it. I said, what is expected of me on this trip? Because again, I will never put myself in a position where I have to compromise my principles. He said, just come and tell the truth. I was like, I can do that. You might not want me to do that, but I never let on that I would say, I would repeat his talk. I never misled the guy, but I was vague enough that he just, with his arrogance, he just thought I was some weak person that would just spit out the talking points. I kept saying throughout this, God has befuddled this man's mind. I've never seen anybody behave so absolutely stupidly. And in fact, if you look at the impact of his mistake there, it's cost the Nigerian government and economy close to $1 billion by now, because of the turmoil that he caused. Yeah. I prepared my report. I've been doing this research. I've been fact finding since 2019, 7 trips. Okay. I mean, I didn't have to go on a quick tour to learn the truth. I know this stuff, and prepared my report before I left, kept it secret, travel 30 hours, land there, get picked up from the airport. The driver starts telling me these talking points. Well, of course, it's farmer herder clashes, and of course, more Muslims are being killed and about the crazy stuff. And I knew it was, and he was obviously reciting them. Get to the Hilton Hotel after 30 hours of travel, and I'm hurry, let's go. Not a bathroom break, not a cup of water, not go into your room and freshen up. Yeah. You've been sleeping on the airplane. Fix your hair. I had to put on a ball cap, and I thankfully had about 30 seconds to grab a blazer out of my suitcase and throw it on, and get led after 30 hours of travel straight into a meeting with the guy they said was the head of Christian Association Nigeria. Well, it wasn't. He was just head of one part of it. Yeah. And even that's questionable. That he certainly wasn't authorized to speak on their behalf, is what I've been told by the real leaders. And I go into the room and a small hotel room, and he's talking to the camera. He's not even talking to me. So much for fact finding. And they pat him on the back, thank him. They lead him out of the room, and in come 3 imams, including Isa Pantami.
Yeah.
Omokri, not long ago online, called him a terrorist. And he is a terrorist. He's a radical jihadi imam. He's celebrated the killing of unbelievers. He's presided over stoning of people that he put fatwa against, labeled to be a heretic. He's done that. That's who he is. And I was sitting immediately next to him in a small room, and he's smiling at me and telling me these same talking points with 2 other imams. Again, no break. Just fly straight to that. And then we go from there. It's straight to the set for a Rise TV primetime interview. Yeah. When it's doing the countdown, again, no break, no time to freshen up, no time to rest. Go straight there, and you've seen it by now, I'm sure. He tries.
Yeah, I saw that brawl between you and him at the Rise studio.
And again, he was not supposed to be sitting next to me. He almost got into physical altercation with the host, Charles, because Reno was supposed to be somewhere else, but he insisted he sit right next to me, and he tried to trip me up, assuming after 30 hours of travel without a break, I'd be weak. And he was trying to gauge what I would say, because we hadn't he didn't know what I was going to say at this press conference, but God allowed me to navigate my way through there. And my goal was to get to the press conference. And the rest is history. He gets to the press conference, introduces me to all the media as this great mayor of Texas, and gives me the floor, and I proceed to indict the nation for genocide. I had manipulated him by telling the truth, mind you. Beforehand, I was supposed to stay another week. I don't think I would have made it home. I certainly don't think the story would have got out because they would have confiscated, the media. I had a professional videographer embedded with the journalists. I had other staff there live streaming it just to be safe. But I had manipulated them. My plane ticket was for the same day. So went to the press conference, walked out, got into my waiting vehicle and drove to the airport and flew.
Wow.
When I left, I had 114 Twitter followers. Within 72 hours, that event had more than 3 billion global impressions. And it flipped the global narrative from 80% genocide denial to 70% genocide affirmation in 3 days. And every observer here at the highest level say that's what prompted Trump to take action.
True.
That's what's prompted the hearings and the sanctions and everything. Was that narrative flip, which was 100% because Reno Omokri did it. The trouble that the government is in right now, it would have eventually probably come out, but it's 100% related to Reno Omokri's arrogance and incompetence. 100%.
So I'm thinking they relied so much on him, and they had, employed him to do that dirty job, and he probably did a poor job there. That could have been, business gone bad for him.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. What do you think about what probably could have changed Reno Omokri's views on what he had termed genocide? Because the first time I ever heard of genocide of Christians in Nigeria was from Reno and FFK, Femi Kayode. But they both are singing a different tune now. What could have changed his opinion about what he campaigned against before? And what do you also think about his nomination as an ambassador designate for Nigeria? What do you think?
Well, both Omokri, who I know personally, and FFK, who I know by reputation and by observation, I don't believe if they ever had a soul, they sold it a long time ago. They base their strong opinion on which way's the wind blowing, what's in it for me, and simply the new paymaster, the new boss, wants a different song to be sung, and so they're singing a new song. That's one. There is no foundation of thought or moral gravity or ideology or anything behind anything they say. It is only feeding their stomach. That's those two, and there's lots of Nigerian politicians like that. Maybe most of them. I don't know. But it was entirely because the new boss said, "Hey, say this now." Okay, we're going to say that now, boss. If Tinubu wanted Omokri to go out and declare the sky is green, he would go out with all of his passion and say, of course the sky is green. If you think it's blue, you're an idiot. You've been lied to because it's green. Just look at the sky and you'll see it's green. That's what Omokri, and he would do it with all of his zeal, all of his passion. He's just a I've seen it up close and personal. He cannot even speak truth. I don't think he has an idea of what truth is. It is all situational. When I got there for this, again, 30 hours of travel, hit the ground, getting ready to go into this media photo op, and he pulls me aside and says, "Don't tell them you just got here, because I already told them that I've been taking you around and showing you all this stuff." I mean, everything that there is no truth to him. It is just stomach to him. That's all. Everything is situational. And if that is the kind of person that Tinubu wants to represent the nation is in serious trouble. For that person to be an ambassador of Nigeria, what does it say? I've been, since 2010, I've been a lover of Nigeria, and I've been fighting the stereotype. Most of the world, they don't know Nigeria, big or small. They couldn't find it on a map, but what they know is scammers, Nigerian internet scammers. He is appointing the chief scammer to be an ambassador of the nation. That is the worst possible move that he could make if he had any concern whatsoever for the nation. What does that tell Nigerian children growing up that want to aspire to greatness? Oh, I want to be an ambassador someday. So let me learn how to lie. Let me learn how to cheat, and let me learn how to steal so I can be a great person too. It corrodes the very essence of a civilized society to appoint somebody like that.
Thanks for your time. Another question I'd like to ask you. Nigeria now has a new Minister for Defense, the former Chief of Defense Staff. What's your opinion about that particular? He's been confirmed, so he's not a minister. Yeah. Do you think with his emergence, anything is going to change a lot? Owing to the fact that the system we operate does not even give the minister enough room to address a lot of issues. The president still consults with the service chiefs and makes most decisions, leaving the minister like a lame duck. What do you think? With all the experience, skills, and knowledge he has, do you think he can really function if there are no certain reforms that allows the minister to get his jobs done?
You know, and I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know the gentleman or his reputation enough to be able to issue an opinion on the man himself. But I can tell you, in general, the fact is, this government.
He's just a former chief of defense staff that left just recently. And he's been in the news for a while, so I was thinking someone you could have known, General Chris Musa.
Yeah, no, I just haven't met him,
Okay.
and so I haven't been. I mean, I know what I know, and I'm not going to go out on a limb on something. But let me just say that the way.
But I think this is happening because of the. I'm just so they can answer because of the reforms, because of the concerns of the U.S. I see the president trying to, keep up certain appearances to this thing to try to make certain improvements.
It's symbolic. It's symbolic, and I can tell you. A house divided against itself will not stand. The foundation of this government is built on northern control, and north is built on genocide and jihad. And they will not let this guy upset that. They might let him do some symbolic actions, and they're going to trumpet it, but it's a PR move. It's a PR move, is all it is. And I'm sure they're going to keep his wings clipped and keep him from actually doing what needs to be done because they don't want to see it done. They don't believe it needs to be done. They think it's a good thing what's happening.
Thank you. One of the, was it congressional hearing? I don't know, a few days ago, I don't know what event it was again. Was it one of the Nigerians who said he was demanding for the U.S. government to mount pressure on Nigeria to abolish Sharia law? That is part of the basic foundational blocks of the crisis Nigeria currently faces in the north. What's your take on that?
There's a lot of rumors. I don't believe that it has come. I don't believe that anything official has been done here on that basis. But the fact is, a nation cannot exist with multiple sets of laws. I mean, a nation is made by its laws. It's made by its systems of justice and its systems of governance. And there is no way, and we're actually seeing it here in the United States. There's pockets of Sharia law that have popped up here in the United States.
Yeah,
and thankfully we're seeing efforts to stamp that out and eradicate it. You can't. You cannot have it now. If they want to have their own little domain where they have Sharia law, that's not Nigeria. That's another entity altogether. It's incompatible with a civilized society. It's incompatible with a nation ruled by law. You can't have two sets of laws. It's just not possible. So, yeah, if Nigeria is going to exist as an entity, that entity must have one set of laws, and Sharia is incompatible with that.
So one of the basic final questions before I read the comments, and if there are other questions from our viewers, they would ask is, what then is the interest of the U.S. in all of this in Nigeria? What's the interest of the U.S. in what is happening in Nigeria?
So, the U.S. is not a monolithic being, just like Nigeria is not. The Nigerian people feel one way and the government may feel another. The American people, by and large, are good, benevolent people. And the people I know, the people I associate with, the people I watch on television, I mean, they believe this genocide is a great evil that must be stopped. If you look at the sacrifices that America has made in history, the ending of World War I and the ending of World War II, those were not on our shores. Those were not in our land. We did that for good in the world, to have a peaceful world, because that's good for everybody. And the compulsion of the American people is that genocide is evil and must be stopped. I believe it's in the national vital, and I think this is at the highest levels they're seeing this, because it wasn't that many months ago that General Michael Langley from the United States, who was the head of AFRICOM, our African Command, testified before Congress that Nigeria is now part of the epicenter of global terror. And the next 9/11 attack, if there is one, it's going to originate from there most likely. And we have a vital national interest in not letting the nation fall to radical jihadis. We saw what ISIS did in the Middle East. They when they got resources, they turned those resources around to continue the jihad, and they had an ambition to build a global caliphate. Well, they are now headquartered in Nigeria and operating with impunity. For the security of the world, including the security of the United States, we must end that. Of course, there's also the minerals. I would be lying if I were to say that's probably something that's crossing people's minds. But again, you got to sell them to somebody, and we have to, on a global basis, keep China. And we all have to keep China from cornering the market on rare earth elements, or we're all in trouble. And so, yeah, it's about the humanity. It's about national security. And I'm sure in the mix somewhere is minerals. Again, it'd be stupid not to admit that. But there you go.
Yeah. Thanks. We have 15 more minutes. So if you're on the comment section, if you're watching us and you want to come up here and make certain contributions, we'll more than likely waiting to have you here to have these conversations. I'm going to leave the link in the comment section for you to come on here. So I just posted the link. If you have questions, fine. So I read some of the comments now. This is like a question. How do you relate the role of the Obama regime in the emergence of Buhari and removal of Nigeria as CPC by Biden, which with the crisis? So it's like a question to you. Someone is asking a question. I think it's a Nigerian asking a question.
Obama, and I think I've heard many Nigerians say it as succinctly as you can. Obama is the devil. I echo that. I have not seen a more malignant force in our government in my lifetime than Obama, and he's very slick about it. The American people don't have any idea what he did there, and they wouldn't tolerate it. It's been hidden, and I think I'm certain that Biden's removal of CPC was specifically to cover it up. It was a cover-up because Nigeria is the smoking gun of Obama's evil. He overextended there, and it's provable. And I believe he could be prosecuted for what he did there. But the fact remains that Obama, I believe that the record shows, was instrumental in the unleashing, at least, or let me put it this way, the tying of the hands of Jonathan and the Nigerian government in fighting Boko Haram. He was instrumental in that, and he was instrumental in the selection and the eventual election of Buhari on purpose, which is evil.
Could we tie, I'm trying to play the devil's advocate here, could we tie Obama's prevention of Nigeria from accessing these arms to the Leahy Law, the Law of Armed Conflict, the Geneva Convention? Because at that time, if you look at what was happening, they were also fight against the opposition at the time. They were battle. So there was this fear that it could have been the abuse of human rights in Nigeria going on at the time that led to all that happening. What do you think could have happened that Obama just didn't want them to access his arms?
What I remember at the time, and what I've seen, and there's always different narratives and all, but Obama actually pulled military support because Nigeria and Jonathan didn't support gay rights, didn't support gay marriage. That was the excuse he gave here. Yeah. And I've seen that, if we give them arms or help them, then they're going to use it to against their own people. Again, I must go back to this. At the time, Nigeria was the only nation on earth where radical Islam was being pushed back. It is what it is. And Obama didn't want that to happen.
Okay. I read another comment. Yeah. It's a question, then I take a comment. Okay. Thanks, Andrew. Will the U.S. eventually go beyond sanctions and visa ban and the likes, so coming down to Nigeria physically if the insecurity worsens? Or is it the visa restricted based on Nigeria's sovereignty? So I think we talked about it earlier, but we didn't really touch it. Is there going to be like a boot on ground, or are they going to do some sort of collaboration that shares intelligence? You never can. That's a question they're trying to ask.
I don't know the future. I don't. I've never met Donald Trump. I don't know his ear, but I know Trump is against foreign wars. He's against nation building. He's against certainly extended foreign conflict. He's very surgical in the way he's done what he's done. Look at the Iran-Iraq conflict that would have been a war, which would have still be going on. It would have been very horrible. He flew in, what was it, 16 bunker busters down the same exact hole, blew out their nuclear facility, and flew out before Iran even knew he was there. Okay, that's Trump's style. He's not about pumping up the military industrial complex. He's about getting things done. Yeah. If there is military activity, I expect it to be surgical. It'd be brutal and it'd be quick. Is it going to come to that? I don't know.
So next question: what's the United States stand on the priests and bishops in this government that are denying the genocides in Nigeria? I'm sure they're talking about sanctions on them. Are there going to be specific sanctions on? Just like they were talking about.
I don't know. I don't know. It's almost a joke. The people here aren't stupid, especially our leaders aren't stupid. And they see that somebody in the past has been saying one thing and all of a sudden they're parroting the same talking points in the imams when the facts are self-evident. These people are obviously spineless and they're obviously corrupt and they've obviously sold their souls. And
so this is just a comment. And I think if no one is coming up because of your next appointment, I would just give a final shot. So this comment says, I disagree with your calling Obama the devil, in quote. You may stand on opposite sides of issues, but to come out of character to call him such names is just uncalled for. I disagreed with your commission. That's just a comment.
What I said is I've heard many Nigerians say Obama is the devil. I've heard that many times. Yeah. And I'm prone to agree with that. Now, specifically on this issue, I don't believe that if you look at the displacement, for example, and today there's as many as 10 to 12 millions, there was effectively zero before Obama intervened. None of this was going on before Obama intervened. We could have rescued the Chibok girls. We had the intel, and our team was ordered to stand down and let them go to destabilize Jonathan. If that's not the work of the devil, nothing is. But on this side of the ocean, you need to understand that any issues of racism you see today were stirred up by Obama. He's the one that forced those and generated and stirred up hatred that's still bubbling up. If you look at how he built his political machine around yanking people from issue to issue and outrage to outrage, there would be no transgender issue today if it weren't for Obama. There would be no gay marriage widespread today if it weren't for Obama. Those were all specific things that he did on purpose. Yeah. And if that's not the work of the devil, nothing is. So, I'll stand by. I don't say he's necessarily the devil himself, but he certainly is a son of Satan, and he operates as such.
So, Mike Arnold, it's been a good time with you today. I don't know if you have any final thoughts on this whole issue for Nigerians who are watching you tonight.
I appreciate it. There's no such thing as darkness in physics. It's just the absence of light. Nigeria has been operating in darkness for a long time because they've been brutally suppressing anybody that speaks up, and people have been in fear. God doesn't give us a spirit of fear. I encourage everybody to speak up, to speak the truth, to look for the truth and share it, to post it, keep talking. Go find. If you're in Nigeria, I guarantee you're not far from of a displaced person. The government's called them homeless, beggars, criminals for a long time. Don't believe that. Go find a displaced person. Go find a camp of displaced people. Hear their stories, share their stories, help them out. You have the power to turn this around. The Nigerian people are good people. The body of Christ in Nigeria is strong if it just unifies and stands up. There is no going back. There's no status quo you can go back to. It's only going to be extreme darkness, or it's going to be a glorious reawakening. and the power is in your hands. Your hope is not in the white man. Your hope's not in Washington, D.C. The hope is in your own backyard. Be the change that you want to see, and you will see it come about.
Thank you. So today I'd like to say thank you to you and everyone who's been championing this cause. I also like to thank Frank Uto and everyone who has been fighting for Nigerians and everyone that is oppressed, that is facing all these attacks in every corner of the world, particularly Nigeria. We pray that God continues to bless all of you and strengthen you in your various endeavors. So with this, we come to the end of this conversation, and hope to have you here some other time, and say enjoy the rest of your day and the weekend.
Thank you. God bless you.
You're welcome.